The Witcher 3 is regarded by many as one of the greatest RPGs in recent memory. This is hardly a surprise given the game's deep lore, vast open world, and excellent storytelling. To honor the game that set a new standard for the open world RPG, and the incredible amount of effort developer CD Projekt Red put into this game, today I'm here with 10 facts about The Witcher 3 that you may not have known. Let's begin by setting some context by discussing the Witcher books. In case you're not familiar with the book series, The Witcher was originally a series of 6 books written by Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski. These books form the basis for the world of the Witcher games and are referenced many times in The Witcher 1 through 3. The games take place 5 years after the final book, but interestingly enough, the games are not considered to be canon by the author. The author also had no involvement in the development of Witcher 2 and 3 and had minimal involvement with The Witcher 1. Sapkowski originally fleshed out the idea for the Witcher series in the 1980s, and wrote his first short story in the universe called The Witcher. Ironically, he entered the short story in a magazine contest for young authors and only got 3rd place, whereas now his books are famous worldwide. There's also a Witcher movie and TV show called The Hexer, but both were received extremely poorly. Fact 2. Ciri's sexuality. As is hinted by a dialogue option in The Witcher 3, Ciri might be bisexual. I find this to be rather interesting because bisexual protagonists tend to be rare in media. At one point in the Witcher books, Ciri finds herself part of a gang called the Rats. A member of the Rats called Kaylee attempts to rape Ciri but is stopped by a girl named Missile. Ironically, Missile then takes advantage of Ciri instead. However, Ciri eventually begins to reciprocate Missile's advances, and while their relationship is certainly up to some interpretation, the two care quite a bit for each other and seem to have some amount of romantic feelings for one another. Ciri even gets the same tattoo as Missile, which is a rose on her inner thigh. Ciri also has romantic feelings for a man named Galahad at the end of the book series, and she can also attempt to romance Skjall in The Witcher 3. Again, Ciri's sexual orientation is really up for interpretation, but many believe her to be bisexual because of all this. Fact 3. A reference to Cyberpunk 2077. As you know if you've played The Witcher 3, Ciri has the power to move between worlds. When Geralt finds Ciri on the Isle of Mists, she tells him of a world she spent half a year in. Take a listen.
People there had metal in their heads, waged war from a distance, using things similar to megascopes. And there were no horses. Everyone had their own flying ship instead.
This is actually a reference to CD Projekt Red's upcoming game, Cyberpunk 2077, which is due to release sometime in the next few years. The world Ciri and Avallac'h went to is the world of Cyberpunk 2077, which is described as a dark future in 2077 where advanced technologies have become both the salvation and the curse of humanity. We can also probably expect some sort of reference to Ciri in Cyberpunk 2077, and some even think we'll be able to meet Ciri in the game, although in my opinion that's a bit of a stretch. Fact 4. 1 million lines of code. The Witcher 3 has a total of 1,135,617 lines of code. At the time of development, CD Projekt Red had between 200 and 300 employees, only a fraction of whom were actual developers, meaning each developer averaged thousands if not tens of thousands of lines of code. Over 30,000 of these lines were devoted exclusively to dialogue. Fact 5. Cut features. There was originally supposed to be ice skating combat in The Witcher 3, but this ended up being cut from the final version of the game. CD Projekt Red also envisioned a system like VATS from Fallout, where you could supposedly target enemy limbs, but this too was scrapped. Gwent, which did make it into the game, was given only a 3-day development period. The idea for the card game was created by 2 people, and they got approval to put it in the final game under the condition that they could complete it in 3 days. Luckily, they were able to do so, and Gwent ended up being extremely successful. Fact 6. The Law of Surprise and how Geralt got Ciri. The Law of Surprise is an extremely weird aspect of Witcher lore. When a Witcher saves another person's life, they can invoke the Law of Surprise to receive a reward whose nature is unknown to those he saved, and possibly himself as well. There are various ways one can invoke the Law of Surprise, including but not limited to, give me the first thing that comes to greet you at home, what you find at home but don't expect, or that which you already have but do not know. The reward can be anything, a dog, a horse, a lover in your wife's bed, or, as is often the case, a child. In the Witcher books, Geralt lifted a curse from a man named Duny and asked for that which you already have but do not know. In this case, Duny had impregnated the princess of Sintra, a woman named Pavetta, and was unaware that she was with child. So the reward Geralt received was their unborn daughter. While she was still an infant, the girl's parents supposedly died at sea, and then Geralt came to retrieve her when she was 6 years old. It is later revealed that Duny faked his death and is in fact the Emperor Emhyr, meaning the child that Geralt won was, of course, Ciri. Fact 7. A Professional Swordsman. CD Projekt Red actually hired a professional swordsman named Maciej Kwiatkowski to advise them on modeling Geralt's movements. Geralt's dance-like combat style actually comes directly from his advice. This shows how much effort and resources CD Projekt Red put into developing The Witcher 3, with the total cost for the game coming to $81 million US. Fact 8. The Aen Elle. Long ago, there existed a race of elves called the Aen Undod. In face of a cataclysmic event called the Conjunction of Spheres that annihilated their home world, the Aen Undod departed in search of new worlds to inhabit, splitting into two culturally distinct groups. The first group, called the Aen Seidhe, settled on the continent, which is the world Geralt and Ciri live in. They're essentially the standard elves that you see in the main world of The Witcher 3. The second group, called the Aen Elle, settled in a different world. The Aen Elle killed all the humans of their world and are constantly at war with the unicorns. The capital of the Aen Elle world is called Tir na Liah and is visited by Geralt and Avallac'h when they speak to Gells in The Witcher 3. Fact 9. Ciri and the Aen Elle King, Oberon. In the Witcher books, Ciri takes a portal to the world of the Aen Elle, but finds herself trapped there as she has not yet learned how to jump between worlds. The first person she meets is Avallac'h, an elven sage. Avallac'h insists that she must pay a debt in order to escape the world of the Aen Elle. Long ago, there was an Aen Elle sorceress named Laura Doran who carried the Elder Blood. However, Laura Doran fell in love with and married a human mage named Creganin of Lod. Elder Blood is an inherited power and considered extremely valuable by the Aen Elle, so the Aen Elle considered this marriage to be a theft of the Elder Blood from them. Ciri, who's a descendant of Laura Doran, is called upon to answer for this theft. Avallac'h tells her the only way he will allow her to return home is by having a child with their king, Oberon, thereby passing the Elder Blood to her child, who would remain with the Aen Elle. In Tir na Liah, Ciri meets an elf named Eredin, who she was originally infatuated with. She also meets Oberon, and the two try to conceive a child, but are unable to. The reasons for this are often debated, but it's believed that Oberon was repulsed by Ciri, because the Aen Elle consider humans to be an ugly and inferior species. So basically, the two tried to have sex multiple times, but Oberon couldn't finish the job. This is extremely disturbing for a few reasons. First, Oberon was over 650 years old, whereas Ciri was only around 16 at the time. More importantly, Oberon is likely the father of Laura Doran, meaning Ciri is a descendant of his, so their relationship is incest. As a side note, the second theory for why Oberon couldn't impregnate Ciri is he saw Ciri's resemblance to his daughter Laura and was disgusted by what they were doing. Regardless, Eredin suggests a potion that would help Oberon to conceive with Ciri. Eredin gives him the potion, but he dies from drinking it as it's too strong. In the books, it's actually unclear whether Eredin intended to kill his king, and it may have been an accident. But in The Witcher 3, Eredin is clearly portrayed as intentionally killing Oberon. After the death of Oberon, Ciri flees and is able to escape with the help of the unicorns. Fact 10. The Wild Hunt. Eredin was leader of an elven cavalry unit called the Red Riders, or as they are better known on the continent, the Wild Hunt. Eredin and Avallac'h once possessed a power called Gate of the Worlds, the same power used by Ciri. They used it to conquer the world of the Aen Elle and kill all of the humans, but have now lost it. Initially, the reason Eredin wanted to capture Ciri is because he believed she was the key to retrieving his Gate of the World's power. However, in The Witcher 3, the reason he wants her is slightly different. The Aen Elle world appears to be facing annihilation for reasons that are not explicitly stated, possibly from the White Frost or the unicorns. Therefore, Eredin seeks to solve this problem by taking Geralt and Ciri's world for the Aen Elle, using Ciri's power to transport a large force for the invasion. Eredin is known as King of the Wild Hunt, and his generals are Imlerith and Caranthir. Imlerith was a brutal warrior who prized pure physical confrontation. Caranthir, on the other hand, was an extremely powerful mage and a master of teleportation. He was a product of Avallac'h's selective breeding. Interestingly, the Wild Hunt are humanoids, but are classified in-game as wraiths, or specters from another world. Because of this, silver swords are most effective against them. This seems to be contradictory, as it's clearly indicated the elves of the Wild Hunt show up in their true physical form. Whether the choice was intentional or an oversight isn't really known. There are many parallels between the Wild Hunt of Witcher 3 and an actual European legend. This legend tells of a ghostly group of riders called the Wild Hunt that pulls away people's spirits to join the hunt. The hunters are said to be elves, fairies, or even the dead. Alright everyone, that's gonna do it for the video. If you could rate the video with a like if you enjoyed, it would really help me out a lot and I greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in my next video.